Oh, good morning. Well, it's a little different this morning. I decided to go live like I did last night on British Expat in the Philippines. I decided to go live on Grumpy this morning. I'm hoping that some of you might be interested in watching. I've just been, somebody sent me Ian actually sent me a link to a channel that was talking about the thought in your head, the little voice in your head that is there all the time. A very interesting piece. I'll see if I can put the link on the information part of this video. It's suggesting that the thoughts that are in our mind when we wake up and we open our eyes and decide what we're going to do for the day or any moment is not actually our own thoughts. It's actually a accumulation of our own observation of life itself. Everything that we see is kept in a little place in our head, in our subconscious. The feelings, smells, the impression, and also the concept of how we interpret things is that all of that information is being collected like a great big computer in our heads. And it's from that we draw our thoughts for each day or each moment of our life. This little voice in our head that is constantly, supposedly talking to us, and we're not supposed to be mad as a result. But anyway, on to what I was talking about. I also watched a couple of videos this morning, not a lot, but I'm not really into watching necessarily other people's videos just for the sake of it. Right, now this is where it's going to be hard. I can see somebody's left a message. Good morning, sir. Good morning to you. Oh, Anne. Hello, Anna. How are you? Sorry, I couldn't read it there. And how are you too? I see you're battling on with your channel, which is great to see. And also we have, again, very hard to read in this light. I do apologize, but anyway, I see that many of you are there, and maybe I should go inside so that I'm able to read your comments. I think I will. So if you'd like to come with me, I'll take you inside. I'll be very gentle, and as a result, I'll be able to read the comments. Not so easy to read out there because the sun is glaring in my face and I can't actually read the comments in the background. So if I come in here into the dining room where it's a bit quieter and it's also able to read your comments, that's better. Now I can go back and read the comments that some of you have left already. Right, Anna, Philippine village girl. Good morning to you, Anna. Great to see you on board. Yes, I'm fine. And Roman Wild, or no, Roman Wid. Hi, hello, Roman. Roman or Ronan? Roman, yes. And Aran. Oh, I must get my glasses out next time. Hi, man. How are you? Here from Iran. Well, welcome from Iran. Welcome here to the Philippines. Phantom Ray. Yo, what's your opinion on Kay's recent tweets? Well, actually, I don't follow Kane. I don't think I know what you mean. Oh, there we are. We have Ian on board. As I'm not blocked on this channel, you should be able to see the comments laugh out loud. I can, Ian. I'm welcome to you too. And I was talking earlier about one of those links that you sent to me. Very interesting for what I've heard so far. Am I from the Arvin Malale? Sorry if I pronounced the name wrong, it's probably my eyesight. Are you from the US of A? Well, actually, no, I'm not. I'm from England originally and spent most of my time in Australia and New Zealand, and the last 10 years here in the Philippines. Hello, Jimmy. Arvin. Mato Ame, Kinin, who's the gay fish guy? The gay fish guy. Oh, right, okay. Jane, the ultimate Filipina. Hi, Mr. Norman. Hello, Jane, the ultimate Filipina. Mark Curtis. Good morning, John. And Rebecca Bellet. You look handsome. Well, Rebecca, I can probably put you on to a good optician because you maybe need glasses. I've got no teeth at the moment, so how can I look handsome? Maybe next week when I maybe get my teeth back. Back from the dry cleaners, you might say. And Arvin, in Iran is night and yours is day. This is interesting. It is amazing how on different moments in time, anywhere on the planet, there's different things for everybody. Anna, thank you so much. That's all right. Have a blessed Monday. And you too, Anna. Thank you for calling around. And Sinan Bear, Uncle, which World War did you participate in? Well, I think it was the 1869 major war between Zimbabwe and Alaska. Do you remember that one? I think it was that one. Thank you for your kind comments, Sinan. Sinan, Uncle, which World War did you participate in? Well, I just answered that one, so you've done it twice. What did you say? Which one? Zimbabwe and Alaska. That'll keep you busy. Right, Arvin. Hello, Arvin. I love you. You are a good old man. I am a good person, and I'm old as well. 77 in May. And I'm reminded of a few people that I've followed in my lifetime have sadly just departed this planet and gone to other places. But back to what I was talking about, I was watching 2 or 3 videos this morning, which I tend to do. I watch Brent's World in the morning. It just shows life as it really is, and that's really what the Philippines is all about. And it's like anywhere in the world. We all live a normal life. It's an everyday, mundane things to do, things to keep us busy. The only difference is that what we have around us is different from what we've been brought up with. So it's a challenge for all of us. Benny, hello Benny. God bless you. Well, I hope he does. But so every day is full of lots of nothing, really, I suppose, unless you've got a plan or a task that you have to undertake. And that's the whole point of it. You know, if you dig deep, and people talk about Americans just like I do. I watched a couple this morning. I watched Greg and Wilma. They're doing videos about life here in the Philippines. They have a nice home that they've built, and they're filming the construction next door of a fellow neighbour who's building a house next door. And again, it appeals to people who want to watch people building homes. And there's nothing wrong with that. When I first came here to the Philippines, I was attracted to a channel called My Philippine Dream. And it has James and Ness, his Filipino wife, building a very nice home near Tagaytay in, what would you call that? The southern suburbs of Manila. And they're within a stone's throw of that volcano that's sitting outside of a lake, or forms part of a lake there. And if you've been watching his channel from the beginning, when I did, it's very interesting to watch how homes are built. And it spurred me along to actually build my own home. But as time has gone, the content has changed somewhat to DIY, to gardening, to food, to building a swimming pool, to, again, following other people building homes. And they are of interest to many. But a lot of the American channels here, or should I say run by Americans, focus on things that they believe are of interest to their fellow Americans. I watched one this morning talking about Social Security. For me, boring. But for others, it's helpful maybe for them to have a perspective from another fellow American. Right, now Benny. Live a healthy life. Thank you. And point of spew. He blocked me. Point of spew. Well, actually, he didn't block anybody. It got blocked because maybe you made a wrong comment, or maybe you were being a little bit facetious or rude. That's the only reason people get blocked on channels. We try and keep the channel light-hearted, full of information, and it's always nice to hear from people who take an interest in the channel. But if you intend to smear others, to be ridiculous, then we let it flow for a while. But after a while, you get dumped. And then you end up being called whatever it is, something of spew. I mean, fancy having a name like that, having a handle about sickness. You know, I don't think I did. Right, well, maybe you didn't. Maybe somebody else did. But the point is that whatever you do on a channel, we as the creator have the right to delete comments that we feel are a little bit in bad taste, maybe. Good morning, Mike. How are you? Good to see you on board. It's always nice to see fellow bloggers. If you want to go and watch Americans talking about everyday things and also about things that really would affect Americans, that's what one does on any channel. It's about the creator creating things that they think are of interest. But Mike and Arlene from our Philippine journey are on board, and again I thank you for popping by. But this is something we've got to remember, you know, like if you're going to create a channel, I could just say, well, I was watching a channel today from an American who lives in Angeles City, who I occasionally had sparring, not matches, but sparring events. You're going to find a completely different kind of content that may well ring a bell with those from America or from North American continent. And they are of help to anybody, but they also have they often have overlapping points of view that maybe affect you. I mean, if I was to sit here all day talking about things in Australia, maybe if you have an interest in Australia and people who've lived there or come from there, you may well tune in regularly to see what my latest update about Australia is. If you are wealthy, if you're poor, you'll go to different channels. There are many channels that are run by Americans who are living on what we would call in Australia, living on the smell of an oily rag. It's a throwback to the days when lots of Italians and Greeks used to come to Australia in mass, emigrating to the country. And the local Australian would refer to them as wops and all sorts of weird names, which these days are not generally used because Italians and Greeks have become so embedded in everyday life in Australia. You don't have to look far to look at the young ladies coming out in the street to see that they have a Roman nose or a Greek look or an Italian look or whatever comes from. There's an absolute amazing array of different beautiful ladies that come from these areas. So they're just seen as fellow Australians. And there is not the kind of stigma that applies to some Western countries, like England at the moment is having you might call it a renaissance of having a go at those that come from other countries, especially those from Arab type society. Whether that's the right thing to do to focus on people. I mean, when I was young, there was a massive increase of people into England simply because British people just didn't want to do the jobs that people from Jamaica wanted to. So a lot of Jamaicans in the early 50s came to England and they took up those jobs that nobody else wanted. In New Zealand, when I lived in New Zealand, all the hospitals had nurse aides, porters. Everybody was from one of the Pacific Islands, Samoan, Tongan, Niue. Why? Because it was a little bit like a closed shop. If a job vacancy came up, it was another Samoan, Tongan or Niue Islander who would take the place of that person maybe who left or passed away. And who is to complain? I mean, it's a horrible job, changing bedpans and having to fold hospital corners on beds and stuff like that when they didn't have sheets that could be fitted. But what I'm meaning is that we shouldn't spend our life criticising. And I know some of you are going to say, but hang on, John, you criticise Americans. No, I don't. What I do is I highlight the ones that nobody really wants to talk about, the ones that increasingly seem to be finding their way to the Philippines for obvious reasons, financial, the opportunity to meet somebody that they probably would never in a million years find in their own country. And who is to blame them for doing that? Not at all. What I'm trying to emphasize to anybody watching, and if they are American, after all, maybe 50% of my viewing public are from America. And it's important that we don't get the wrong impression. And if you haven't traveled well, some Americans often say, well, I've traveled a lot. I've been here, I've been there. When I was in the military, we went here, there. Well, that's not the same as living in the country, absorbing the culture. If you're living on a base or you lived on a ship and you're arriving in these countries and you're having R&R, that's not the same as living everyday Filipino life, going to the market. Back home in Australia or England or New Zealand, where I've all lived, every day was punctuated by the same things. We all have to eat, we all have to go to the supermarket, we all have to go, when we're in the Philippines, to the market, the supermarket, the wet market, down a street that looks like no businesses would really operate. But then because you've been here enough times, you start to realize that little shop on the corner actually has something you need. And you'll be gravitated there because you're now familiar with the area. Sorry, Grumpy, I have to go. Well, sorry, Ian, that's all right. Catch me later. Well, maybe. And right, let's just go back and just see that we haven't forgotten anybody. Yeah, I got blocked for not making a person a moderator. Right, okay. Yes, you did. We know who she was too. Hello, Kenneth. Hello. And Kenneth says, did you have a coffee and panda cell yet? No, actually, what I did have, I was made a very interesting breakfast. I had pancakes this morning. Something different. Not coffee and pancakes. Amazing. Kamote PH. Oh, Aussie. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. Yes. Ian. Sorry, Grumpy, I have to go. The local wet market and pay the electric. Catch you later. Well, we all have to see now. That's an everyday thing we have to do. Oh, you mean the love market? Ouch. No. Oh, you mean the love market. And Venus and Mark. Howdy. This is MJ. Changed our channel name. Hello, MJ. How are you this morning? Isn't it funny how people change their name and they change their channel? But you'll still find them if you put your old channel name in, because the algorithm will find you. Above all. Morning, John. Hope all is well. Yep, all is well. Everything's working. It's always good to double check. Now, yes, so what I was talking about everyday things, it is. Life in the Philippines is the same as life anywhere else in the world, except it's a different environment. We have to do things a lot more basically. We have to think with our head a little bit more. I liken it when I went to Osaka. That's the name of the place I was trying to remember the other day. When I flew into Osaka for the first time into Japan, I actually flew in within about 2 weeks, I think it was, and they had an dreadful earthquake in Osaka, and Osaka was devastated. All of what I'll call the spaghetti junction roads that led out to the airport, the ones up high like the Skyway here in Manila, they all collapsed. They fell down, and houses were burnt, large areas were burnt, and the airport, which was designed and built by an Australian company, or was it? No, it was a New Zealand company. Amazing airport. It shook and it moved around, but it's all with cables and quite very modern architecture. That managed to survive, but it's sitting on reclaimed land, so it was sort of like on a jelly. But when I got there for the first time, I was always amazed walking along just a normal suburban street, how cabbages were growing on the edge of the footpath, just as you step onto the road, like a little nature strip, you might say. And these cabbages were sort of multicolored. They were sort of yellow and white and purple and green, but they were all different colors within the format. And they're actually more, I believe they're not for eating, they're more decorative, but they are a cabbage. And that was rather unique. But the other thing was that very few words or signs are in English. They're all in Japanese, what do you call it? I can't think of the word. Symbols. And of course, when you look down the street and you're looking maybe for a pharmacy or a bank, there's nothing there that clicks in your brain as to exactly where you are or where you have to go. And the other thing, of course, is everywhere they have vendor machines. You can buy yourself hot soup, a hot meal, cold drinks, chocolate, all these things are in vendor machines at the end of virtually almost every street has got some form of a vendor machine, which reminds you that the technology in a place like Japan is amazing. And of course, a lot of you have bought homes in Japan. And if you buy an old home, you can buy them very, very cheaply in places quite handy, because the amount of money that you would pay otherwise to restore them, make them uneconomic from a Japanese point of view, you would tend to knock them down and build a brand new one. But these are old homes that are traditional Japanese homes. They're beautifully made, so it's really good. And that's all I can say, what I meant to say. I got waylaid in there. What a horrible time to be in Osaka, it sure was. 2 weeks later, such devastation, but at that time I think I'd flown to London. I think I was flying to London from New Zealand. And in New Zealand they provide you with automatically a stopover in Japan. And the stopover is just a 24-hour stopover to make, in a sense, to make you stop and spend some money there. And you stay in a hotel, often in the airport itself. And it's an alien country. It really do feel alien. But it nevertheless is so clean, so in touch with nature. It's a wonderful place. I'd love to spend more time exploring the beauty of Japan. And the Japanese have been a society that has kept itself somewhat pure through the centuries. They've not allowed the mass importation of different races into the country, so it has essentially stayed Japanese. And whether that's a good model to have or not, I don't know. I often wonder whether being born in one country is what we should spend our days involved in, because with the advent of air travel and earlier on boat travel around the world, those adventurous ones, such as myself, have branched out and left our homeland and come to places far away. Many English went to India, Pakistan, Thailand, and seeking adventure in their lives. And some of them have ended up staying in these places. And their understanding of the world is now based upon their lifestyle there in those countries. For me, coming at 18 to New Zealand, knowing nobody, just the opportunity to follow a girlfriend there and meet up and discover that she had moved on, so to speak, and got herself a new boyfriend. I was heartbroken, but nevertheless picked myself up, and I made the best of what was maybe a disappointing start to my new adventure overseas. But in doing so, it made me who I am today. I mean, I must admit, I don't actually recall. I can remember being registered as unemployed because of necessity at one time. Thought, well, I better make sure I can get the dole, just in case. And as it turned out, I never actually made a claim. So in other words, I never got the dole at that point in life. So my experience of being on a benefit only started when I retired. Because every day, if I didn't get up each day to work and people weren't paying me to do the work, then of course I couldn't have those luxuries like a car and a home and a nice little hobby farm of some 10, 15 acres and experience that in life. Many of my fellow friends over the years that I've known have had boring jobs in their history of employment, and they've always regretted that they didn't do something like I did, which was to work for myself. Working for yourself makes you, I think, better organised and better able to meet the challenges in life. If you rely on other people to always be the one that gives you your daily bread, so to speak, I don't think that you always have that ambition to get any further than what that will provide you with. I mean, a lot of the Americans that come here have come from backgrounds that have positioned themselves for a better retirement. They've had a better understanding of retirement. I must admit, in Australia and New Zealand, I think the government left it for a long, long time a second or third priority in terms of encouraging you to save for your old age, to set yourself a target for what we call superannuation, to put aside, in a sense, a private retirement fund. There were times where there were organisations in Australia that encouraged you to put aside a certain percentage of your salary so that when you became no longer in the workforce, you were able to add that to your social security, giving you that lump sum, maybe maybe downsizing from your family home, for instance, to a more manageable home unit, maybe, rather than a big sprawling property which would cost you quite a lot to maintain in your old age. And many can't afford to do that and have to sell their properties to downsize. But by doing so, they end up with a bigger nest egg. But in Australia now, you can contribute much larger sums at different points in your life to top up your super, as they call it, your superannuation. And it's always a good thing. And I would imagine that my children and your children would be facing a more in-your-face challenge of putting aside as much as one can do in the rising cost of living in the world today for their own retirement, which I would imagine, going on the inability of many governments to manage their own affairs, will turn it round and make the individual retiree in the future be responsible for their own retirement support. Which is a pity, because the baby boomers onwards have always had it handed to them on a plate to a degree in terms of social security. And it has tended to breed those that didn't want to work to become lazy and rely upon cradle to grave kind of support. Every society has people who are more vulnerable than others, those that are lazier, those that see it as an easy option. But when it really comes to true retirement, what have they got? Nothing. They rely on government housing. They rely on every 2 weeks to get their cheque or their deposit in the bank. And they, within a few days, are back to the same point. No money, not much to do until they get their next cheque. And of course, they still make more children, and they still have more dogs, and they still smoke heavily, and they still drink. And you wonder where the responsibility starts and ends with that group of people. And I don't hear too many of them packing their bags and coming to the Philippines and experiencing life. Because if you have a life that's like that, and you find that that's your lifestyle, then what are you going to do here? There's no social security. You can't just lay back and let other people do it for you. We have bad habit. Oh, is that a bad habit? When do you get the teeth? Oh, when do I get the teeth? Wednesday I go for a mold. That's in 2 days' time. And I believe that it's about 3 days to a week, 3 days or maybe a week maximum before I get to try them out, test drive the new look. So I suppose you would say stay tuned to this channel, or maybe even British expat in the Philippines, where some of you have come from. But yes, life is what you make it, and if you don't have that drive in you, you're not going to succeed. I'm sorry, whether you're American, Australian, English, or Japanese, come to that. If you don't, you can have a regular pension. But if all you want to do is sit back and take in the sun and have a cold beer till you finally pop your clogs, I don't think you'll be happy here. I really don't. Like I call this channel Grumpy Brit. I think you'd be a grumpy Brit or a grumpy Aussie or a grumpy Yank, no matter what you do. You have to have ambition, you have to have some drive in yourself. When I was building the house in the Gillian, every day I woke up and thinking, right, I don't want to spend a lot of money, but I want to do something today. What do I want to do? Right, I'm going to sand that down. Yes, I'm going to go and buy another bucket of white paint or primer or whatever, sanding primer, and I'm going to make that my task. I know I'm going to get hot. I'm going to maybe have a portable fan near me, but I'm going to get up there. I'm going to get down and dirty. I'm going to get the old wet and dry. I'm going to sand everything down as best I can. And I'm going to be so fussy. I'm going to keep going over it until I get it right. Determined to make the best look. Because I've always thought, well, if you can't do it properly, then don't do it at all. But again, I think, at least if you try, you can achieve it. Of course, in the West, I was used to having portable lamps, like an arc lamp, where you can shine it up on the ceiling and you'll pick out all of the imperfections and you can hit it easier. And I was always saying to myself, I must get one of those lights so I can do the job properly. And if I ever got to that situation again, that's what I would do. It's important to do the job properly because it also gives you a sense of pride. What's wrong with Osaka? Nothing's wrong with Osaka. Osaka, unfortunately, had a major earthquake when I went there last time. I can't remember what year it was, but they suffered a dreadful, catastrophic result of an earthquake. And as I said, I was there some 2 weeks just earlier to it. And by the time I arrived in England, it literally was all over the news of the devastation and disaster in the city of Osaka. So I think the reference that I was referring to is that about things that are difficult to understand in Japan because of the fact that not a lot is in English. But I gave a preamble of my visit to Osaka. That's all it was. So this is you would call it my early morning thought for the day. It won't be my first and it won't be my last. But I just thought it would be a little different for those that watch this channel in the morning to see me alive and breathing for as long as I can remain alive on this planet. And I'd like to thank everybody who has come to the channel, and we hope your day is a good one or your evening is a pleasant one, and that you keep on watching as much as I can put up there for it. And I'd like to thank all of those that have joined me who have other channels, and I'd encourage you to go and watch their channel too. So don't forget to give us a thumbs up. It always helps with the algorithm. And no, this channel is not monetized. So if you're watching the videos that have pop-up ads, I'm not getting anything out of it. So it's just YouTube on the grab, not me. I will set it up eventually. Every little bit counts. As I've always said, you only have to go to the description, and you can, if you want to support the channel, by all means do feel free to do so by using my PayPal account, which you'll find in the description. So again, thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch up again soon. We may do another live later on in the week after I've done my mold maybe, and can give you a more up-to-date situation. But my gums are now on the mend, and I feel a little normal, except when I try and crunch, there's no teeth to crunch on. But the food that I'm eating is a little bit more substantial. I'm even eating chicken, but breaking it up into small bits so I can sort of roll it around and have a swallow. So I get the taste and the texture. So once again, bye-bye. Thank you for calling, and we'll catch you again soon. Bye now.